What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. So needless to say, a lot of people saw this one coming in terms of a review, and there was no way we weren't going to cover it. I am going to go over the latest offering from Napalm Death. Resentment is Always Seismic, a Final Throw of Throes. This also comes out on the 11th of February on Century Media Records. This band formed in 1981 in Birmingham. This is their 11th EP overall with 15 full lengths. We did the whole fucking ranking, and holy shit, that was amazing. Grindcore legends. We'll just go ahead and say that. I think, honestly, still one of the most important bands in extreme metal in general. I've been a long-time fan of this band, so anytime this band puts out something, I'm fucking all over it like a fat kid on a cupcake. And this EP is very interesting. I think it consists of mostly songs that did not quite make the cut on the last album, Throes of Joys and the Jaws of Fetism, which was a year-ender for me. Honestly, I think it's one of Napalm Death's best albums, which is hard to believe a band with that many albums can still put out stuff that tops all their classic material. Well, needless to say, I was very curious in terms of stuff that may or may not have made the cut. These songs also might have been completely original too, but I think that they were done during these sessions. And it's not just originals on here. We have 2 covers as well, and well, kind of an interesting thing going on with title tracks, essentially. Now, when it comes down to the originals and the stuff that we have grown to love about Napalm Death, opening track, Narcissist, kicks off with Shane's merciless bass tone and then just gets right into a solid groove. Barney growls his guts out and then it explodes into a grindcore fucking shit fit. The song just explodes, and lyrically, really wouldn't take you that long to figure out who they're talking about. It's a very specific person, but Barney is just fucking spitting and growling fucking venom on here, backed up by fucking Dan Herrera's merciless fucking drum work, which that dude is still on top of his fucking game. And riff work from, of course, Mitch Harris, but also John Cook on here too. And damn, man, this is just a hostile opening track. And when it comes down to that awesome grindcore sound that we absolutely adore about Napalm Death, the songs By Proxy and Slaver Through Repeat Performance pretty much just nail that. Slaver has this really cool bouncy off-time rhythm. There's cool breakdowns, but of course it breaks into blast beats and just frantic vocals. And By Proxy is probably the fastest, most aggressive song on here, just flat out. And even though this does sound very classic Napalm Death, one of the things I think they've gotten so much better at over the years is incorporating atmosphere. There's a lot of like dissonant tremolos and sort of ambient noise in the background. It's very caustic, like across the board. Like, this is an unwelcoming, fucking threatening EP, but that caustic atmosphere, that fucking extra layer of volatility, that really just adds to, well, what they've been doing here lately, and it just makes it that much more fucking aggressive. But there's some slightly different stuff on here too. Man Bites Dogged is kind of thrashy. Honestly, it has one of the most distinct, like, kind of thrashy, chuggy riffs on it, and it sort of pivots between like thrashy riffs and like a punky D beat, and it just kind of seamlessly transitions in between. And vocally on here, I have to say, Barney has been way more experimental here lately. Like, he not only just growls his guts out, there's chants, there's groans and moans, there's like breathy croons. He really has like sort of just broadened what all he does. But it's kind of interesting that he employs all these extra vocal techniques and cleaner vocal techniques, not necessarily to flirt with accessibility, because fuck that, that's not Napalm Death. It's just to sort of add another layer to their sound, because there is much more to Napalm Death sound here lately. Like, you know, the last album definitely reached out into some different camps. Like, there was post-punk, there was noise. You get a lot of those elements on here, albeit in a very condensed version. Again, Man Bites Dog having that cool pivot between punk and thrash metal, then eventually exploding into a grindcore fit, because those are generally coming. And then employing like chanted vocals near the end. I don't know, it just makes for a very interesting listen. I really fucking dug that track. And then we get to the title tracks. There is Resentment Always Simmers, and then Resentment is Always Seismic, Dark Sky Dirge in parentheses. Both different from one another, but both similar. And I don't know, like, Resentment Always Simmers is definitely a more atmospheric track. There's more like atmospheric tremolo riffing and Again, Barney's exploring some different vocal techniques. It's way more atmospheric. Like, it does have a really cool groovy punch. Actually, kind of took me back to like Fear, Emptiness, Despair a little bit. It's got really cool like stomping drum accents, and Barney, again, like his vocals sound more like desperate, even though like looking over the lyrics, it's definitely still brimming with hostility. It's just sort of interesting how they kind of match up. Now it does kind of taper off into this atmospheric section near the end where it kind of just drones on one point and kind of repeats. The resentment always simmers pretty much towards the end, and it got a little old. But then you get to the title track or the other title track. I don't know. They both have resentment in it. I'm counting them. They kind of do fit together too, because the title track almost feels like a remix of Resentment Always Simmers. It has the same lines. It might even be the same vocal takes, except they're repeated. And this song is way more of like an industrial metal song. Like, this definitely is like closer to Godflesh than, well, what you expect from Napalm Death throughout most of their discography. It's slower, way more atmospheric. The bass and the drums pretty much take over this song just in terms of like the main driving force behind it. The bass tone, first off, Shane's bass is just massive sounding, but the drums sound even louder in the mix on here, and then guitars kind of take a backseat in favor of just like noisy squawks, which might be the guitars, and might also be some sampling on here, but it just makes for this really dense, like kind of 90s industrial sound, like, you know, early pitch shifter and stuff like that. And I kind of expected something different with like the title track being like, you know, a second part, but being vastly different. This kind of feels like a remix of Resentment Always Simmers. Not that that's a bad thing, and honestly, I can't remember the last time I listened to a remix of a metal song that I thought was cool. Like, it was probably somewhere in like early 2000s, but I like this song. It's really interesting. The atmosphere is very different. It's very doomy. It's very sullen. It is absolutely layered to the nines with just all sorts of squawks and electronic noises and scrapes, and it's very unwelcoming, but I kind of like that. I used to listen to a fuck ton of like industrial bands back in the day, and this was kind of the industrial that I really got into. And then we have a pair of covers. First off, they do an awesome cover of Don't Need It by Bad Brains. They absolutely slay it. They grind it the fuck up, but definitely staying very traditional along the way. Not even a minute long, and it just barrels through. And I think Mitch might be doing most of the vocals, which Mitch definitely does a fair amount of vocals on here. In fact, Mitch pretty much starts off by proxy, and then Barney comes in a bit later, which is really cool because they have vastly different voices. But this one is just a fucking shrieking fit, under a minute, fucking punch the teeth. And then we have the song People Pie, originally done by Slab. Now, I'm not familiar with Slab. In fact, I just jammed the original version, and it's very spot on, but it is very fucking weird. This was a industrial noise alternative project from the 80s. This song, I believe, originally came out in 88, and it's predominantly bass and drum work, with Barney kind of taking on like this almost spoken word sort of approach, like not necessarily like rapped, but it has just a spoken word rhythm to it. And there's backup singers, which I think was really interesting, because the original song, like when it gets down to the chorus, there's like you know, backup singers like, yeah, you know, that sort of thing. That's probably much better than that, honestly. But hearing that paired with Barney's voice, and I don't know, just hearing anything remotely poppy with Napalm Death is odd. But of course, they make this song kind of their own. Like, when compared to the original, it's very similar, except this is just much more gritty, especially, you know, again, Shane's bass tone on here, absolutely massive. But it's such an odd song. And I mean, it's Napalm Death. If they're going to cover someone, it's going to be more of an oddity song, because they like a lot of cool, obscure bands. I mean, those were kind of their influences. But this one is just a little bit odd for me. Like, I think it's just kind of fun, but I don't know. Like, it just feels strange. Like, I don't really know how to process this. Like, when I listened to it, I just wrote question marks next to it. It was like, oh, this is weird. But honestly, it's kind of cool hearing this band kind of surprise me after, oh, so many years being around and so many years listening to them. This is just a very strange cover. But altogether, this is a really cool album. Like, it kind of feels, again, like these are leftovers, but these leftovers are fresh. They stayed nice and sealed in the fridge and definitely not spoiled. But I can kind of see why some of these songs wouldn't have fit on the last album, especially the covers. I mean, I don't think they would throw the covers on that main album because they had so much good original material. But this is an intense listen and pretty much shows off, once again, the uncompromising spirit of Napalm Death once again, which is always something I will respect about them. They do what the fuck they want, and what the fuck they want happens to be something I absolutely love. So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. This is a solid fucking EP. The originals are fucking bangers for the most part. Like, again, I think the title track is more of a remix, but it's kind of a cool, dingy, dark remix, like noisy industrial stuff. And that is definitely something that is in my wheelhouse. But by proxy, Narcissist, Man Bites Dog, Jesus Christ, those songs fucking whoop ass. And I like the fact that with every release, we continue to hear like new elements in this old band that has been around just destroying people's eardrums for so many years, and they continue to find new ways to be heavy. If you're a longtime Napalm Death fan, there is no reason for you to not get this. Go ahead and get this. If you are a new Napalm Death fan, I am absolutely sure you will find something you love on here if you just like grindcore in general or just extreme music. It's definitely still grindcore, but you can almost just call it extreme metal, period, because it's definitely sort of got its fingers in a lot of different fucking pies at this point. Definitely check this out. Napalm Death rules. That's pretty much all I need to say there. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you would like to help us out there will be a link down below. And t-shirts. We'll be making an announcement soon. We can't wait to do that. It'll probably pop up the same day as another premiere, probably just later in the day, but we can't wait to show you the new design, and we can't wait to announce a giveaway going on with that, because we are on the precipice of hitting 10,000 subscribers, which is a milestone that I never thought we'd achieve, but honestly, like 1,000, again, it seemed like that was, you know, a bit much too. But thank you guys so much. This is all due to you. And we are eternally grateful, because we love doing this. We love communicating with you. And, you know, this is the awkward thanks part. We're all used to it by now. This is like one of those long hugs where the person just holds on too long. You're like, all right, come on, ease back, bud. It hasn't reached the point to where one of us has an obvious erection during this hug, but don't worry, we'll get there. So with that, I thank you all very much for watching, and we will catch you later.